Now, it's been a great harvest, I am told, in Canterbury this year, and the development of irrigation has been hailed as a major contributor for underpinning those outstanding yields in face of a dry season. So I wanted to cross now to the new General Manager, well, new-ish, for the Central Plains Water Scheme, established in 2003 to create a 60,000 hectare $450 million community irrigation scheme here on the Canterbury Plains. Now, Mark, firstly, before we talk water, we're talking, of course, this cold, bitterly change we've had today across the country and the shock of winter arriving. What's your favourite thing about winter?
Winter? Well, winter would be snow. I think snow is a beautiful thing.
Obviously,
possibly not for the same reason as you.
Yeah, I'm saying you like getting the old sort of flash tracksuit out and hitting the slopes at Mount Hutt.
Well, no, I'm well past that now, but every bit of snow that falls is water for me in November and December, and storage is just fantastic.
Absolutely. There's nothing like a good tarn on the mountain to hold that water through for us for summer. I've reached out to Mark after a friend of mine farming in Canterbury recommended this is a good news story about how CPW are continuing to ensure environmental standards are met with auditing, continuing over lockdown, with, of course, the innovation of using drones. Mark, can you explain for our audience that don't know much about the scheme what farm environment plans are and why farmer shareholders need to abide by them to be in this scheme?
So a condition that all our shareholders have to fulfill is that they complete a farm environmental plan which sets out how they will manage the impacts of irrigation on their farm. So they're quite particular to each individual farm. The system is a self-managing system, but is subject to an annual audit, and you need to satisfy the auditor that you're meeting all the standards that are required. And if you do, then you continue on your merry way. If you're not, then you're required to address those shortfalls and you'll be audited again in the forthcoming year and to maintain those standards.
And there's nothing like a lockdown to keep the environment auditors away. Some great work going on to innovate and make sure that process is continued, which I know a certain ECAN councillor was very happy to hear.
Well, we contract for this year around 160, 170 FEP audits, and they're spread over the year, but we try not to conflict with high work times on the farms themselves. So we have a schedule that we try and adhere to, and as soon as we're no longer allowed to move around, that schedule comes under threat, and so we're falling behind. Now, one of our contractors, that's Lincoln Agritech, have been moving to try and use technology in their auditing, but have met with some resistance, I think mostly from the regulator who wants to see it works before they're prepared to endorse it. So the COVID-19 has, if you like, a small silver lining by virtue of giving Lincoln Agritech the opportunity to demonstrate what they can do remotely. And so each farmer now uploads his farm environmental plan online. That's then looked at by the auditor, who then has a Zoom meeting with the farmer, and they go through the plan together, and the auditor will raise what questions need to be. The farmer can supply the information that's required. And then at a subsequent date, which suits both parties, they'll get out, they'll actually go out to the site, and that's under level 3, they've been able to do this, and they fly a drone around the farm to carry out the visual part of the audit. And it's working really well. The resolution you get on these drone cameras now allows at least a good, not as good an observation of the conditions as you would if you were driving around yourself.
That's fantastic. So we haven't proceeded on with a multi-million-dollar irrigation scheme without environmental stewardship at the forefront of this. And one of the things to celebrate, of course, is the Selwyn Aquifer Recharge program and monitoring. How's that all been looking over this summer season?
Well, that's it's been. They've had a report through from the Selwyn Waiora Zone Committee to the Environment Canterbury that they were extremely satisfied with the impact of what they take to be the lack of groundwater abstraction because of the irrigation scheme we have on the lowland streams. So the stream levels have risen, And some of the springs down in the lower catchment, which haven't flowed for many years, are now flowing very well.
So the insurance policy of irrigation is, of course, one thing with looming climate change, but CPW is an example so far that it can be done with the environmental improvements such as stream recharge, as well as, fish life. This is a great story. Do you think that why aren't the newspapers picking up on this?
I wouldn't care to suggest why, but we will continue to do a job which means that they can't ignore us.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark Pizey, and the great work of Central Plains Water Irrigation Scheme here in Canterbury as a bit of an update after a record harvest that was, of course, allowed to proceed with irrigation that has been supplied, and, of course, the flow-down effect of a community scheme such as CPW.
This is Sarah's Country.